An entrepreneur. Picture in your mind someone that you know who started their own business. What do they look like? What are they wearing? How old are they? Do they look like this? Or this? Or this? I never dreamed in my entire life that I would start my own business. In fact, it was the last thing on my mind. I went kicking and screaming completely against it for the entire year of 2008. Completely against it. I also never dreamed that my life's work would focus on combating suburban poverty. But let me step back. On March 3rd of 2007, I said a prayer. God, light my heart on fire in a whole new way. 11 days later, I learned that there were children facing poverty in my suburban town. That's right, suburban town. But how many? So I made a phone call. I asked a single question. How many children are getting a free or reduced lunch in our school district? And I was told 2,158 children. My mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. How could this many children in my town, where I lived and worked, where my children went to school, be in poverty and be hungry? And I had never known. That day, I had a defining moment in my life. I knew that I was called to love, serve, and feed those precious children, body, mind, and spirit, and to bring the community with me. But I didn't know very much about poverty, so I started to learn. And what I found was that there was an entire population shift in our country. That people who were living in poverty in an urban city, because of regentrification, were moving to the first-ring suburbs. I learned that poverty was moving and increasing in my town. In March of 2007, I was Scott's wife, Lydia and Jared's mom. I worked at a local church. I volunteered at a local school. I had studied economics in college. I had absolutely no business starting a free summer lunch program for children. But I was obsessed and compelled to do just that. I didn't know how to do it, so I just took one step at a time. And I used my mouth to tell anyone who would listen to me there was a problem in our town and how they could help. Then on June 11th of 2007, I took a drive. You see, I had started a summer lunch program, never having seen one. I had volunteers coming, food coming, children coming, but that drive took me over half an hour to go a really short distance because I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to go there because I knew deep in my soul that I would go there and look into the faces of the children who came. I knew that I would fall in love with them and that I would be wrecked and that my life would never be the same. But I kept driving and I went to that lunch site that day and I looked into the faces of the children who came, and the funny thing was, I was completely right. I felt wrecked. I was falling in love with them. And my life has never been the same. And I thank God for that because it has been so much richer. That summer, as I was serving lunch to children, I learned really quickly, serving children lunch is easy. It's transactional. It's not hard. But as I talked to the children and got to know them and learned about what their gifts and talents were, learned what their challenges were, their problems, I started realizing that my calling was becoming more and more clear. I learned and realized that there was something deeper and something that was more profound. I started wondering, could a child overcome poverty versus just live better in it? And so I started learning about suburban poverty and how it was different. I learned two really important things. One, that free handouts don't help people out of poverty. They're really important in a time of crisis. They're vital. They have to be done. But over time, over time, they hurt people, they break them, and they create dependency. I also learned that in suburban poverty, that people were spread out in a larger geographic area with people of mixed socioeconomic status, and that there were people who had means in suburbia, that they cared deeply. I found that these people cared deeply about their neighbor, and they really wanted to help. They had means, and they had time to do so. I did learn that there were times they weren't sure how to help in a way that was effective. So all of these things were going on in my mind, but I was really busy because at this point I was running multiple lunch sites with hundreds of children and hundreds of volunteers. And then I started to have questions from parents. They started saying to me, "What are you doing next?" They said to me that they knew education was the way out of poverty, and that's what they really wanted for their children. But they explained to me how their children were falling behind in school every year because of the parents' illiteracy, lack of English, or lack of technology in their homes. The parents said, "Could you help us with that?" So in 2009, I found myself starting my own business. We named it Serving Our Neighbors Ministries, or Sun Ministries for short, a Christian nonprofit that partners with children and families in the suburban setting, helping them take steps out of poverty and mobilizing the community to serve our neighbor. Then in 2012, I went to one of the lunch sites. And I went there to see about 16 children who were getting into trouble, and they hadn't before. And I said to them, "What's wrong?" And they said to me, "I'm bored at summer camp, Miss Kim." And I said, "Great. I'm a dream catcher." I love that answer. What do you want to do together? We have 7 weeks. Let's have fun. I want you to dream really big. What could we do here together? And they stared at me like you are. And then after a few minutes, they started really believing that my question was a real question. And they started to dream. And they said, "What if we started a business? What if that business was a restaurant? What if we used our secret family recipes?" So that day, the children and I made a deal. I asked how long they thought it would take for them to start a restaurant. They told me a week. I said, "Okay." They said, "How about if you come back and bring us customers?" So I did. I went away, and on July 6th of 2012, I went back to that lunch site, and I found those same 16 children that I had talked to the week before, and they greeted me in the hallway, and they welcomed me like this: "Welcome, Miss Kim, to Taco Bell Jr." It was a Mexican restaurant. And they took me into this room, and in the room, they had completely decorated every table. There was music playing. Every detail was attended to. And the food was great. It was really, really good. Not just okay, but great. And the children have taught me so much. I brought them hundreds of customers over the years, customers like Cameron Mitchell and congressmen, senators, mayors, superintendents, BMW financial service employees, lawyers, hundreds of volunteers, maybe some of you, who have come and had a really great Mexican lunch, but also have come to see the amazing gifts and talents of these precious children and to encourage them. The children have taught me so much over the years. They've taught me things like, we as adults make work sound bad to children. We say things like, "Hurry up and get your work done, then we'll go have fun." Or we'll say, "Let me help you." They don't even need our help sometimes. We, in effect, steal the joy of work from children. The children have taught me that as adults, we spend a tremendous amount of time at work. We should like it. They've also taught me that working and serving people is fun. When I asked 16 children to dream really big, anything they wanted to do at summer camp, they didn't ask me to take them to Disney World, and they didn't ask me to buy them a lot of stuff. They wanted to, in effect, work and serve people. They've also taught me that work is where we go to learn about our gifts and talents. We learn how to work with other people. We learn about what they're good at and how to enjoy each other. So over the years, the children started saying to me, "We dream of this going worldwide." So we took them up on that offer and started fanning the flame. We wanted to see more children at more of our lunch sites having this great experience. So we brought in CEOs, partnered with Junior Achievement, and we replicated that restaurant to 2 more lunch sites. And it's working. This summer alone, 3 elementary-aged children started 2 businesses outside of camp, real businesses. Can you believe it? I forgot to tell you, the children who were the 16 were 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. Did you picture them as older? In our country, there are 21.4 million children who get a free or reduced school lunch. It's the 2nd biggest way that we deal with food instability in this country, right behind food stamps. Less than 4 million of those children get a free summer lunch. That leaves 17 million children with faces and names who are food unstable in the summertime in this country. Our summer camp is changing the trajectory of thousands of children's lives. What if it were changing the lives of millions of children? And what about you? Do you know how many children are in poverty in your town? Because I guarantee there are children in poverty in your town. Have you ever asked? Do you care about if they have a place to go in the summer, if they get hungry? Do you think you could do anything about that? Imagine, if you will, what if every community across our country had free summer lunch programs that were challenging children to overcome poverty through entrepreneurship? What if we were teaching children how to run their own businesses while we were serving them a free lunch because they were hungry? Imagine with me a generation of children being raised up, nourished, creative, enterprise-thinking children with amazing gifts and talents who are no longer being identified as poor or hungry, but as entrepreneurs. I'd like to introduce you to some children who deeply inspire me. They're the inventors of Taco Bell Jr. Stand, friends, please stand. They're going to be way too shy to stand. Can I leave my red dot? Thank you. I'm honored by you. Thank you.